Welcome to Reflecting Light. This podcast is about filling the world with light by exploring myth, ancient texts, scripture, great works of world literature, and the works of artists, past and present, for those who have eyes to see and ears to hear. And now, here is your host, Mandy Green.
Hello, dear listeners. Welcome to the final episode of Season 2 of Reflecting Light. I think it's been an amazing season. I'm grateful that our audience has grown. I'm grateful for the love and for the insight that gets shared back with me. And I'm just grateful to be part of this endeavor. Thank you for putting up with me when my institute class was canceled. This was the only way I could think of sharing light and illumination with the world. So I thank you for that. Now, once again, as our last episode, I have to be like PBS when they would air their most rockingly amazing shows like Anne of Green Gables or Les Mis concerts and say that Reflecting Light comes about because of you. And this is totally run off of my donations and your donations. And for us to have season 3, we need people to donate money to the cause. So if you have a few extra bucks or want to donate the equivalent of a swig drink or a Sodalicious or your beverage of choice, then I would be grateful for your assistance. We don't make any money off of this podcast. This is just a public service. However, it costs money to host, to have the websites, all of those kinds of things for it to go forward. So again, if you're able to, if you have the ability, send us a few bucks. If you don't, please know that this is a gift and there's no obligation or tie. Today was the National Day of Prayer. I attended an interfaith meeting this morning at the Loveland Aquarium, and I was struck by all of the different prayers and by all of the different congregations that were there. And it was just a reminder to me that even in my own community, I am surrounded by so many people of faith who pray for our world, who pray for our nations. There were prayers specifically for teachers and students, for government leaders, for the poor among us, for our culture, for our leaders, for the spirituality, for our clergy, for any spiritual leader. And all of these specific prayers mention the importance of prayer in our endeavors. And more than one pastor said, however much you're praying, pray more. And if you're not praying, start praying. And I thought, yeah, it's true. I can certainly be praying a lot more than I am. And the faith of everyone there to bring to pass peace, to bring to pass change, to let the will of God happen, to let it be part of our world is really what's going to change this world. We think so much of it is on our own shoulders, and here we are just lifting away. I know I get very forgetful of the Elohim and rely on my own strength and my own ability. And yet the real trick here is to be reliant upon them, to be prayerful of the things that would actually make that happen. We're the smallest piece of that, but our prayers are answered. In my own life, I'm celebrating one of my brother's birthdays today, my brother Sam, and I've had some very poignant moments with Sam in prayer as he's gone through life and become a husband and father and overcome some serious obstacles. And I'm reminded of the power of prayer. At one point, he was struggling with addiction and went to fix the process and was trying to become able to serve a mission for our church. And he went to the bishop, who's the leader of the congregation, and the bishop said, "I want you to know that the only reason you are here in my office is because of the prayers of your mother. Please don't ever underestimate the power of your prayers to bring to pass good and to make divine things happen in what would seem very hellish circumstances. The road to heaven actually does lead through hell. And so as our final episode for this year, I wanted to thank you for your listening, ask for your help, encourage you to pray, and then leave you with some encouragement along the way of things that I really do want you to think about over the summer. In Institute, I usually gave a homework assignment, and unfortunately, I'm leaving the country for most of May. I'll be leading a tour and travel study in England, and I'll hopefully be posting a lot of great content on Mandy B. Green. That's my Instagram handle if you want to look at us on site. And I'm working on a reading list. If you want to get on my website, mandybgreen.com, and sign up to be part of a member of my site, as soon as I have that gorgeous PDF with all the links made up, we will send that out to you. That's just a way for you to maybe explore some of the things that have spoken to you during the podcast or during the year. So I'm working on a recommended reading list for listeners, for students, for people interested in Mary Magdalene or Hebrew or philosophy or what have you. That's the next goal. So sometime in early June, you should be able to access that. Also, the class about the bloodline of the Holy Grail will also be released in June for those of you who are interested in that topic, or for those of you who took the Mary Magdalene class and want this next installment of the classes. In the summer, I'm also going to do an Enneagram class, which is about personalities. I'll have the test up there. It's going to be very inexpensive. It's just a tool that has really helped me understand my own disposition, my own personality, and more importantly, that of the people I love. And I've had several people request that I teach an Enneagram class. So that will just be a fun, pretty light class, but I really recommend it for anyone wanting to enrich your personal relationships. And then in the fall, I hate to say what I'm hoping to do because I'm not sure when it will happen, but the idea is to have an Isaiah class, and that's going to be freaking awesome. So if you're interested in that, again, all of this, if you're interested in any of these other offerings that I have, go to my website, mandybgreen.com, sign up, become a member, say I'm interested in classes or tours or the podcast or whatever. Then when new information comes out, it will be emailed right to you, along with that gorgeous PDF that I dream about at night. All right, enough about that. Donations are also accepted on that site for the podcast if you just click on the podcast link. So here we are, the end of a nice, beautiful session of Reflecting Light. I'm going to turn to Rumi and Rainer Maria Rilke because I love the words of these two artists, and they have some very profound things to say, and they say it much better than I can. So here are some things to contemplate as you go into summer break. Yesterday, I was so clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today, I am wise, so I am changing myself. I have to say that the older I get, the more I realize that the only control I have is over myself and my response to certain situations and my response to other people. There's been this really interesting piece of codependency that's come up culturally that we really want to be people pleasers. And so we tend to waste too much others' opinions of us, or we do things that we would maybe never do hoping to please others when the fact is that you never really will. And if you're going to please one person, it should be yourself. And when I talk about that one person, I'm talking about your most divine, truest self, the person who was sent down here with a mission to perform. And as you grow and as you learn, changing the world is done by actually changing yourself. As part of that, another thing I'm learning in my middle age is the quieter you become, the more you are able to hear. Mindfulness is a really integral part of grounding yourself, of taking a moment, of separating yourself from the chaos, from the rat race. Maybe you need time alone. Maybe you need breaks. Maybe you go on a silent retreat. Anything to do with that, it's important that even a phone fast I've found to be really helpful in quieting my mind and getting me away from all of the motion that surrounds us. That's really just chaos. It's the hurricane. Quietness is oftentimes where we will find or connect with that more divine part of ourselves. Another quote, "The art of knowing is knowing what to ignore. Ignore those things that make you fearful and sad, that degrade you back toward disease and death." Well, we have a whole episode about fear. I despise it. I think we all feel that anxiousness or that fear. And they say, feel the fear and do it anyway. But ignore the things that make you fearful and sad, that degrade you toward disease and death, toward destruction, toward the sense of peril and gloom and doom. It's there. It's there. You don't even have to look to find it. But I think there is a healthy amount of looking for what you want in life and knowing that the enemy is going to send all of the messages along that chaotic, fearful, sad, depressed, anxious line. And so what you're tuning your radio to is important. And when those messages come through, which they will, it's okay to ignore them. I'm telling you, give yourself permission to ignore the things that don't build you or help you. Along with that, Rumi said, it's your road and yours alone. Others may walk it with you, but no one can walk it for you. That's really important, that we walk along this journey with each other, but you have to make that journey yourself. And if you have companions along the journey, I am so happy about that. But know that there are a lot of times where you will walk it alone. And you never truly walk alone, but maybe you do. Rumi also said, and I'm sure you're familiar with this quote, the wound is the place where the light enters you. Light is defined as the natural agent that stimulates sight and makes things visible. Well, if we never had this awful woundedness, to quote Terrell Givens, would the light find a place in us? We become so fearful of wounds that we don't live, that we don't express love, that we don't put ourselves out there. And we act like woundedness is the worst thing to be. Well, inherent in this journey is a hell of a lot of woundedness. There's no way around it. And so instead of looking at the horror of the wound, we can look at the beauty of the light that enters the wound. We can look at what we're learning from that wound. We can look at how that wound has affected us and how we can alchemize what happened into something beautiful. It's my experience that the gods can make anything beautiful, even the worst things they can use to our benefit if we will allow them to do so. Rumi also said, inside you, there's an artist you don't know about. I believe this. You may not know what your gift of artistry is, but you are certainly a divine child of gloriously artistic, capable, talented, wonderful artists. And if you don't believe that, just look outside, any outside, and take time to appreciate that. And then maybe ask the question, where is my artistry? What am I here to make beautiful? What am I here to illuminate? Art doesn't show us the perfect thing. It shows us the possibility of beautiful, perfect things. And I would encourage all of you artists, I am grateful to the change in my own faith community with art. Did you know 3 years ago, I could not find a picture of a Heavenly Mother or a goddess? It was almost impossible. And now so many people are painting pictures of her and divine women and events and reframing our ideas about things. Art has such a power to change our world. And whatever you're here to do, there's an artist in you. Rumi said, as you start to walk on the way appears. Along with that, just start something. Just do something. That's your homework this year. Go find something you've never done, or something you feel prompted to do, or something scary, or something different, and just start along the way. And as you do, it will either illuminate further, or it will say, nope, this isn't it, and maybe direct you on another path. Rumi said, let yourself be silently drawn by the strange pull of what you really love. It will not lead you astray. It could be purpose, it could be passion, it could be curiosity, what you think, what you feel. You know what that siren's call is. I know you do. I know you do. If you're being really honest with yourself, there are things that light you up, that bring you joy, that make you just want to burst because you're so fulfilled and happy with what you're doing. Let those threads pull you to those beautiful things. Don't worry about the other aspects of it. I have to say, my life the last couple of years is an example of this. I had zero, and I mean zero intention of teaching Hebrew, zero intention of hosting a podcast. I did want to travel the world. And it's interesting to see how heaven took those desires and wove them all together. And I have to say, professionally, I don't make a ton of money, but I'm so happy doing what I'm doing. It's a joy for me every single day to come into my study and crack open my books or pull up the microphone or, well, editing's another story, but read whatever it is. Let your heart be drawn to those things. If you're finding yourself in a really busy, crazy time of life, maybe you're raising young kids, take 10 minutes to just indulge in an activity that you truly love. Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. This is a big one, and I've got to find a way to get Tanya on this show. I edited the first half of our interview, went to edit the second half. The interview is gone. It's disappeared, and I can't decide if it's because we're barking up the wrong tree or because it's really, really important for her to share her insights. We have so much to learn about self-love. We have so much to learn about knowing you are born worthy. Your worthiness does not change. It's not dependent on anything else. You are a child of the Elohim. You have gifts, you have talents, you have an inner artist, and the barriers to love are something that you've allowed life to create within you. I am not dismissing crazy, hard situations, but in the end, don't we all want to come home to love? Don't we all want to open up that heavenly wellspring? I just think of Zeus and Hercules, when Hercules breaks that hard lava that's gone around Zeus and he's just able to burst out of that shell. If you struggle with love, if you struggle with those feelings about yourself, look at what the barriers are. Look at how you built them. I was reading in another book, Women Who Run with Wolves. I love Miss Estes' stuff. And she talked about when you have a traumatic, bad experience, we tend to hang on to that trauma. It stays in our bodies, doesn't it? And she said she's found one way that people really hang on to this survivor mindset that I survived this. And she said, and we have our one obstinate, thorny plant that pops and we say, I grew something in this. And she said, that's a survivor mindset, but a fulfilled mindset is something totally different. One way she said that she combats that with people is to practice the same practice that they do in the Day of the Dead, where you set up this shrine. I forget what it's called. It starts with the letter O. If you know Spanish, you know what I'm talking about. You set up this shrine and you build a shrine to yourself for the crap you went through and how you survived it, and some of the relics, maybe a picture. I mean, I want to order those sweet marigold strands and just put them everywhere. And she said, when you memorialize that person, when you memorialize that event, or the child that you were when that event happened, and your ability to survive and be brave and stay alive in those circumstances, you honor that. You give it a place. And then she said there comes a time when you're done and you can take it down and you've given it its homage and you can move forward and be fulfilled and thrive, not survive. So if that's something that speaks to you, go for it. Rumi said, the garden of the world has no limits except in your mind. Where do you want to go? He also said, this is probably my favorite. Well, I have two more. When you let go of who you are, you become who you might be. There's a lot of soul searching we need to do about who we truly are, not who the world has told us we are, not even who our families say we are, or the roles and attributes we've assigned to ourselves as a result of others, or even ourselves or our situations. When you let go of who you are, you become who you might be. All of this has to do with this soul work that I'm talking about. Lastly, you are born with wings. Why prefer to crawl through life? I love wings. I love them in art. I particularly love them on sculpture. In the Louvre, there is my favorite statue in the world, Athena Nike, or Nike, the victory goddess, and her head's broken off, and they found her in the bottom of this bay of water. But she is so majestic. She stands there and she commands 3 stairwells, and you can't take your eyes off of her because of her strength. And she's beautiful from absolutely every angle. And I think about her. I love to contemplate this idea of wings. They represent flight. They represent the ability to ascend, to go higher, to be above, to have an aerial view, a higher heavenly view, to speak with heaven, to interact with heaven. Heaven is not separate from us, my friends. It's with us. And like I said last week, as above, so below means we are interconnected. There is a nexus there where we can escape the world and be part of heaven. So if you need to sprout wings this year, then let that be it. I'd like to close with one final quote by Rainer Maria Rilke. The work of the eyes is done. Go now and do the heart work on the images imprisoned within you. In all of your study and all of the things you're doing, let go of that, and this summer, do the heart work on the images and the dreams and the thoughts and the barriers imprisoned within you that need to be set free. Thank you so much for being a supporter of Reflecting Light. Thank you so much for reflecting your light and love into the world, into my life, into the lives of those around you. It does make a difference. It absolutely makes a difference. And as we pray for opportunities to share that love and light, they will come. So as a fond farewell, I wish you all love and light.
Thank you for joining us for Reflecting Light with Mandy Green. If you enjoy this podcast, please leave a good rating and share it with your friends. And remember, your light makes the world a brighter place. Share it.